Today I'm going to show you how to add wheel spacers and roll your fenders on any car completely by yourself at home to look from this to this. You may find some challenges because of the new wheel offset, but I'm going to show you how to get that aggressive look the proper way. If you missed the last episode, make sure you definitely check that out and see the comprehensive weeks of work I put in to transform my 2007 Lexus IS350 from bone stock to this fully customized version. I covered the eBay Motors Driven show in the previous episode and it was a huge success and the car looks great. However, I'm not really happy with the current offset of the wheels, although I like these 18 inches wheels how they are, but I'd like to see some more thickness by installing some wheel spacers. As you can see, currently my hand can move freely over the wheel, and I want to be able to bring out these wheels about 20 millimeters outwards so that the wheels would be flush with the rear quarter panel. So I got myself these 20mm spacers from Amazon, and I should be able to achieve my desired look using these spacers. Alright, now to solve the wheel offset problem, so I'm going to try the wheel spacers in the front end first and see if I want to have it on the front as well as in the back or just the rear wheel. So today for the wheel spacers, I'm going to try this 20mm wheel spacers, and I'm going to put a link in the description for these spacers if you guys are interested. So there is a nice installation guide right here, and these should fit this size here. So I'm going to go ahead and install these on the front passenger side hub. Then I'll put the wheel and put the car down just to see what the offset looks like. The nice thing about these wheel spacers is that these are the hub centric ones, which means there should be no wheel imbalance or anything like that if you install these spacers. So it should go directly on top. As you can see, there is some maneuver space right here which should disappear once you take these nuts from here and tighten this up on the original screws. Alright, the wheel spacer is now installed on the front end, and as you can see, the wheel sits exactly at the wheel arch, and the only problem I can see is the clearance. For example, on the driver's side, I still haven't installed the wheel spacer yet, and as you can see, it sits very nice height-wise, and there's enough clearance here that I can move my whole hand around this way, and as you can see, there's good ground clearance. But if I want to have this ground clearance on the other side, as you can see, because the wheels are now outwards 20 millimeters, I don't really have enough ground clearance, and I can't even move my hands freely, which means I don't have enough ground clearance. If there is a speed bump or there is a pothole, it is definitely gonna hit my fender or the inner fender liner, and that is not what I'm looking for. Although it looks very nice and sleek on this end, I'm just gonna remove the wheel spacer from the front wheels and just try it out on the rear ones. Check this out. The rear wheel spacers are now installed and it looks absolutely phenomenal. Check out the width it shows right now from the rear end, and on the front I am happy with the OEM offset, so I am not going to install any front wheel spacers. And for clearance, as you can see, my hands can move freely, which is exactly what I needed. And as you can see from the wheel arch right here, it goes straight onto the wheel right here, which is exactly what I was looking for in terms of appearance. And now I can go ahead and install the same right here. This is what it used to look like before with all this wheel gap, and this is what it looks like right now. I went ahead and also installed the wheel spacer on the rear end, and it looks absolutely phenomenal. Alright, the fitment looks absolutely perfect, but the only problem I encountered is that on the wheel arch here, if you can see, this OEM wheel arch has a kind of a straight bracket here that might just scrub with the wheel here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a fender roller to kind of roll this sheet of metal right here, this straight sheet, and bend it inwards so that when the wheels go in and out, it will not touch the straight flap that is in here. The flange will be bent inwards and the wheels can easily go in and out. I got myself this nice fender roller tool, so let's go ahead and find out what it looks like. So this should be a universal fender roller kit, and this should help me roll my fender. I'll try to put a link in the description if you guys are interested in one of these, and it should be a pretty simple hardware kit. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble that. Alright, the fender roller is now installed, and it was a pretty simple installation. Alright, so what I did is I had to jack up my car on one side, as well as also jack up my car on the other side as well. And that is because this car is a rear wheel drive, and because of the differentials, I am now able to rotate the rear wheels freely, as you can see. If this rotates forward, the other side should rotate the opposite. So now I should be able to remove this wheel and put the fender roller to start rolling. We will start shifting the angles in a way that the fender keeps getting rolled inwards until we are satisfied. Alright, the fender roller is now installed, and if you have noticed in the time lapse, I actually moved this pin. This pin was actually here, so I had to push it back to here, and that is because this arm right here was extended outwards, so I had to push it back in this adjuster. And that is the beauty of this fender roller, and this gives me the flexibility to adjust to my needs. So now I'm going to go ahead and change the angle of this roller to a more decent angle. For example, I'm going to have to flatten it a bit, and I can use this lever right here to adjust the flexibility of my roller. As you can see, now I can go ahead and adjust this. Before we start rolling the fender, the first thing we need to make sure to do is heat up this surface here. So I need to make sure that the inner side of the fender wheel arch is actually heated up, but not to a degree that it starts melting the paint, but to a degree that it is just warmed up. And heating the metal up also helps in bending this metal. So I'm going to go ahead and use my heat gun to heat up the surface here and make sure that the paint don't chip. Alright, rolling the fender is now completed. As you can see here, this is now a very thin fender line that is here, because the flange that was here is now folded in. And the reason why you see this bare metal surface here is because the bare metal surface here was actually covered with this silicone right here, which was then painted over. As you can see, this is the silicone piece right here, so that was broken from here. Because I used the heat gun, it kind of melted the adhesion between the silicone and the bare metal. So before I put in the wheel here, I'm going to go ahead and spray some sandable primer here so that there is no question about rusting or corrosion of any kind. And after spraying the sandable primer, I will be able to remove this and put in the wheel and continue rolling the fender on the other end. Alright, I just went ahead and put this sandable primer in, and as you can see, the inside of the fender is now completely covered with sandable primer. Ideally, I should not have any concerns about corrosion or rusting of any kind. So now I can finally install the wheel back and see what kind of clearance I can get as compared to before. You can also go ahead and use these rings, which will be usually provided here, and use them to bolt on your OEM lug nuts in order to securely tighten the fender roller with the wheel hub. So if you feel necessary, you can go ahead and use them. Alright, the passenger side is also now done, and check the fitment out. It looks completely awesome. I also went ahead and sprayed some sandable primer so that there is no corrosion or rusting of any kind. And the wheel spacer should have absolutely no problem right now on the rear end. And as you can see, the wheel is completely flush because of the 20mm wheel spacers that is right there. And there should be no scrubbing. As you can see, I can freely move my fingers around, and there is plenty of space here for the car to go up and down. The fitment looks absolutely phenomenal. I am super happy with the results, and rolling the fenders was actually a necessary thing to do here in order to successfully run my wheels on the car with the wheel spacers installed in them. These wheel spacers were absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to put a link in the description if you guys are interested. Do check it out. Alright guys, here are some before and after images. These 20mm wheel spacers definitely added some character to the car, and now I can happily say I have completed this build. Check out the fitment overall. It does make the car look very aggressive, and I'm sure the wider rear would help in better handling, although I can't test it. Let me know what you guys think of this 2007 Lexus IS build, and thank you all for supporting me on this entire build. I do have some very interesting projects lined up for the upcoming episodes, and I'm sure you will not want to miss them. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you on the next one.